If Americans want to come to Canada for a medical procedure such as abortion, I think our laws say you can't do that, but should we be letting people who, there's a U.S. state that is outlawing abortion, allow that individual to
so
to Canada?
first of all, we're not there yet, right? I mean, the leak happened on Monday night, but Roe versus Wade has not been overturned in the United States, so that's important. I think, you know, there's also going to be states in the U.S. that are going to make sure that abortion is available, even if there are states that criminalize it or make it illegal. So, you know, I think we have to recognize that it's probably not going to be a first choice for many Americans. And I think, as many people have pointed out, there are costs associated with that, and the folks that are going to be harmed the most in the U.S. if this is overturned are those that are lower income, right? The fact of the matter is that already today in Canada, if an American wanted a medical procedure, they could get one. They would just have to pay for it out of pocket. So the comments that I made are factually correct. There's no reason why we would turn anyone away to receive that procedure here. They would have to pay for it out of pocket. But certainly we're not there yet. But I remain extremely alarmed by seeing this happening in the United States, the possibility of it. And we have to be really cognizant and really vigilant that something similar doesn't happen here in Canada.
So then, as a follow to that, in your platform, you made 4 specific promises. What about those? Is it time now to finally move ahead with the regulations, legislation, and funding promises you made on this subject?
Absolutely, and those are underway right now. I mean, Minister Duclos is working on that. So this is something that we are going to move forward with, and I mean, I think the leak on Monday night just emphasizes why this is so important. And as I said, we have to be vigilant here in Canada because there are 74% of the Conservative elected members in this House who are anti-abortion, right, who have stated that publicly.
You've been in government for 10 years. You could have moved to change the law at any time.
Well, we need to continue to work on this. We put it in our platform. In fairness, for the past 2 years, we've been focused on the public health emergency that is the COVID-19 pandemic. But that being said, when I was Minister of International Development, one of the first things I did when COVID happened was provide additional supports for sexual health and reproductive services around the world. Because unlike here in Canada, in many places around the world, those were the first clinics to close. We know there are 25 million unsafe abortions that happen every single year around the world. And by criminalizing or making abortion illegal, you don't stop abortions, you just stop safe abortions.
D'accueillir des femmes américaines qui voudraient avoir un avortement au Canada, comme vous l'avez dit hier, si jamais ça devient illégal aux États-Unis, parce que déjà l'accès à l'avortement est difficile au Canada.
Ben, c'est pas une question pour aujourd'hui parce que le leak qui a été fait le lundi soir n'est pas en action toujours. Alors, on va voir, et comme j'ai mentionné en anglais, il va y avoir des États dans les États-Unis qui vont assurer que l'avortement soit légal. Alors, c'est pas une question qu'on doit répondre aujourd'hui, mais bien sûr, si il y a des Américains qui veulent avoir des procédures médicaux déjà au Canada, ils peuvent le faire. Ils doivent payer pour ces services, mais c'est pas quelque chose qu'on doit discuter comme aujourd'hui.
Mais est-ce que le Canada aurait les moyens d'offrir des...
au Canada pour avoir une meilleure protection, avoir de meilleures réglementations pour l'accès à l'avortement? Est-ce qu'il est temps que votre promesse électorale que vous avez faite aille de l'avant?
Écoutez, là, on sait avec ce qui s'est passé aux États-Unis avant-hier, les nouvelles, ça nous choque tous. On est tous débalancés, on va en parler. Évidemment, on s'en va en caucus présentement. Ouais. C'est peut-être un sujet qu'on va discuter aujourd'hui.
C'est une promesse électorale. Est-ce qu'il est temps de bouger là-dessus?
Mais comme vous savez, on travaille sur beaucoup de dossiers présentement. C'est quelque chose qu'on a mis dans la plateforme. On va le travailler. Je ne sais juste pas quand on va commencer à travailler.
Si ce qui se passe aux États-Unis, c'est un canari dans la mine qui pourrait avoir un effet au Canada, est-ce qu'il n'y a pas le temps ici, justement, d'aller de l'avant? Puis comment est-ce qu'on pourrait mieux réglementer l'accès à l'avortement?
Vous avez raison de dire qu'il faut aller de l'avant avec ce qu'on a dit qu'on ferait avec la plateforme. Alors, je pense que c'est peut-être une question qu'on va discuter ce matin en caucus. Merci.
Is it time to legislate abortion rights in Canada? Is it time for the Liberals to move ahead with your campaign promises?
We'll monitor what's happening in the United States, but the key point is we've always stood for the right of women to control their bodies.
But why not do something that you promised in the platform?
It's in the charter. Section 7 guarantees that. In
your platform, you promised additional money and additional funding to for women's reproductive rights.
Well, that is
nothing in the budget about it. Like, are you guys going to be serious and walk the walk, you put stuff in your platform.
That's a good question, and I think the events in the United States will certainly make us reflect and see what we can do.
There was a case in Toronto of a woman, 31-year-old, who is considering a medically assisted death because she can't get affordable housing. You know, what more is your government going to be doing, and how quickly to help people like this who have disabilities and can't find housing?
That's Canadians with disabilities are one of the mentioned groups as a priority group in the National Housing Strategy. This was a housing budget. You saw the additional investments. We're really going big on even more investments in affordable housing. But we need partners as well. And if you look at British Columbia, for example, even though British Columbians constitute 12% of Canada's population, they've received over 30% of the funding in the National Housing Strategy because their provincial government is very, very ambitious, and they leverage federal funding. We need everyone to do the same thing. We can't.
Years, and the projects
No, absolutely not. Look at
because materials are more expensive.
Look at the Rapid Housing Initiative, 10,250 homes since 2020. So it's really fast. A lot of these projects are getting done in less than 12 months now. And so we recognize the need to move quickly. But while we're building, we're also topping up the Canada Housing Benefit, which is a direct rental support to people who are at risk of being homeless. But we got to do more, I agree, and we are.
How are the federal government buildings going to be used for housing?
We have the Federal Lands Initiative, which also includes properties, and the idea there is to furnish federal buildings to nonprofits as long as they commit to keeping those homes affordable for generations to come. And that program is functioning, but I wish we could expand it, and hopefully we will in the future. But the co-op money, the first time we're going to build new co-op stock in 30 years is exciting. I think a lot of nonprofits are looking at that, and communities, and the Rapid Housing Initiative extension. $1.5 billion more for rapid housing. This is a program that has proven itself, exceeded its targets. 41% of the homes are going into Indigenous communities. So we're doing a lot on housing, but I know there's more to be done. Yeah.
But when could we see like federal offices converted in housing?
We already have a program called the Federal Lands Initiative, and we do furnish it. We have agreements with the nonprofits where we advance federal lands and properties for affordable housing. It's just not as big as a lot of the stakeholders feel it should be, but we just need to do more of the same. Yeah. Thank you.
Caucus, nothing in the budget. Why haven't you walked the walk on doing more to protect a woman's right to choose?
I think there's going to be an awful lot of conversations, I think, to be had about that. It's certainly something that's in the limelight at the moment for obvious reasons.
And you made some commitments in the platform.
Through legislation?
What's that?
Do you support legalizing it through legislation?
Something I'd have to consider, I suppose. But right now I know that, I'm emphatically, my position's emphatic. I think the position of most Liberal caucus members is quite emphatic. I think this is all, even speculation of it's deeply
But is now the
disturbing.
time to move? Is now that what people have witnessed is happening in the U.S., people are saying we have to be careful, all rights could disappear in an instant. Is now the time to finally move forward on your promises?
Probably a conversation we're about to have in there, as we usually do. It usually reflects, what's happening. I'm sure it'll come up. I'm sure it's something that we're going to
See on the way
discuss.
out.
Yeah, indeed so. Right. All will be revealed.
Clarify for us, is the government looking at new legislation to legalize abortion? Is that on the table?
We are looking at making sure that abortion is accessible in every province or territory through the Canada Health Act. And so that means making sure that the Canada Health Act provides for access to abortion across this country. We've already used the Canada Health Act in New Brunswick, for example, to make sure that they're providing accessible abortion
But my
services.
question was if you will do new legislation.
Well,
Or are you just, is the government's only focus the promise for regulations, which was in the election platform?
Exactly. So what we promised in the election platform, which is also in the mandate letters of Minister Duclos and Minister Ian, is to make sure that we're updating the Canada Health Act through regulations to do this. That's really important. Look, in Canada, in our Constitution, the Supreme Court ruled back in 1988 in the Morgentaler decision that it is a woman's right, constitutional charter right to have access to abortion services. And so while health services are provided by provinces and territories, our job at the federal level is to make sure the provinces and territories enable access to that right. And actually,
So
and I want to...
no, I just want to be clear, there's no new legislation.
Qu'est-ce qui arriverait si une province n'avait pas cet accès-là? Est-ce que vous allez retenir les fonds?
Well, qu'est-ce qu'on a fait à Nouveau-Brunswick? On a dit, vous devrez donner ces services, provisionner ces services aux femmes, aux personnes qui cherchent un avortement. Et si vous ne le faites pas, on va réduire votre accès au transfert de santé et on a réussi. Alors, c'est quelque chose qu'on a déjà fait et quelque chose autre qu'on a fait, et pourquoi je suis ici avec Minister Reagan, is that in C3, this is really important, right? We provided security and safety to healthcare workers, health facilities, and people who are seeking to access those. And healthcare facilities include clinics that provide sexual health and reproductive rights services, which are abortion services here in Canada. No one should be harassed. No one should be targeted when they are accessing health services, which is their fundamental right. And I think another really important point is that yesterday, the Conservative Party of Canada told their members of Parliament not to comment on the leak on Roe versus Wade.
Can we
That is
clarify
extremely...
what your government is doing?
No, one second. Let me finish this. That is extremely important and concerning for Canadians. Why is it that the Conservative Party of Canada told their members not to comment? You know why that is? Because 74% of them are anti-abortion. You know why? It's because many of them voted in the last Parliament to open up a woman's right to choose and to limit that access. And every Canadian woman and every Canadian ally across the country should be extremely concerned about that. And you know what our government has done? We passed legislation in C3.
I just
We
want to ask
provided
about what's next,
$45
though.
million.
I want to ask about what's next, Minister.
We provided $45 million in last year's budget to ensure that grassroots organizations that provide these services, that ensure that vulnerable people have access to these services, can access those services.
And yet your government has not budgeted $10 million as promised in the election for an information portal on abortion. So there's still stuff
there's
that
still
your
things
government
that we
hasn't
have to
done.
work on.
And so I'm trying
Absolutely.
to clarify what that is.
Absolutely.
So is it a no on new abortion legislation?
So look at Minister Duclos and Minister Ian's mandate letters. They are working on this issue right now. And Monday's leak demonstrated that this is an issue that matters to Canadians as well.
So is that
it's
a
an
yes or no
issue
to new
that we
legislation?
continue to work on, that engagement is happening on, and we can be certain that this is a reason that we cannot, for 1 second as Canadians, stop caring about this issue or pretend that it's not an issue here.
La raison pour laquelle les Canadiens s'inquiètent sur la question, là, c'est qu'ils voient le gouvernement et ils ne voient pas les actions qui s'en viennent. Il y a des gens qui s'inquiètent et qui pensent que le gouvernement et les libéraux qui ont promis d'agir devraient agir. Qu'est-ce que vous allez leur dire aujourd'hui qui va actuellement les rassurer que vous êtes en train de faire quelque chose? Parce que nous, on ne voit rien. Là.
Bon, premièrement, ce qui est important, c'est que qui est le parti que les Canadiens ont la confiance en concernant la protection de ce droit? Parce que premièrement, la première action, c'est de protéger les droits. Il y a un parti dans ce pays, un parti qui veut renverser les droits de les femmes dans ce pays. Alors, la première action, c'est de les protéger. C'est justement ce que nous avons fait dès 2015. Dès ce moment-là, nous avons travaillé avec le Canada Health Act, justement pour assurer que les femmes et les personnes qui cherchent un avortement au
Donc, est-ce que vous allez changer des lois?
On va assurer que, pour la manière du Canada Health Act, on va assurer que les provinces et les territoires donne des services aux Canadiens. Et maintenant, on l'a promis dans la dernière élection, il y avait passé 6 mois.
Mais
les
Le
provinces
lundi.
devront,
Sinon, il va avoir des conséquences, comme on a vu à Nouveau-Brunswick, et c'est justement ce que les ministres font maintenant.
Et rapidement, ça veut dire quand, ça? Ça veut dire la semaine prochaine, d'ici la fin de l'année?
I want to ask, if the United States criminalizes abortion, are there talks that Canada would not share data entry information for Americans who potentially want to come here to access abortion services?
Well, I'm going to come to that, but in 1992, when the United States Supreme Court affirmed Roe versus Wade, the majority opinion wrote that freedoms and liberties find no refuge in the jurisprudence of doubt. And there are many women today who are experiencing grave doubts and grave concerns about their ability to exercise their rights, including access to safe abortions. Here in Canada, as you know, I believe, and our government believes, that every woman has a right to an abortion and to exercise those rights. When it comes to your specific question about those who may wish to come to Canada, I've engaged CBSA. My office is currently working with them to make sure that there are clear guidelines so that women who may not be able to access health care, including access to abortions, are able to come to Canada.
Does Canada need a law to enshrine the right to an abortion, rather than just using the court decision and regulations in Canada held that?
Well, certainly, I know we've taken a number of tangible steps to ensure that that right is fully exercisable. So, for example, the $45 million that we've invested to enhance access to health care, including safe abortions, is important. We also passed the law, as you just heard from my colleagues in Cabinet, to ensure that those who are protesting with a view to trying impeding access to health care, including access to abortion, can be prosecuted under the law, and there's more work to be done on that front.
Quand vous dites que vous êtes en conversation avec l'agence frontalière, là, vous leur dites quoi pour quel sujet? Je ne suis pas sûr de comprendre pourquoi vous avez besoin de leur parler.
S'il y a une personne, s'il y a une femme qui veut venir au Canada pour accès les services de santé, même pour un avortement en sécurité, il y a le consigne à les agences qui travaillent sur la première ligne.
Mais pourquoi on a besoin de cette consigne-là?
Juste pour la clarité.
C'est quoi la consigne?
Mais écoute, il y a des occasions, par exemple, il y a des questions, qu'est-ce que sont le but pour le voyage, et nous voulons seulement éliminer les ambiguïtés.
Would it right now be in question whether a woman from the U.S. could come here and get an abortion and go back to the U.S.?
No, it should not. But we just want to be abundantly clear and sure that there, is appropriate guidelines in the wake of a possible decision which could be coming out from the United States Supreme Court.
Pourquoi il y aurait des ambiguïtés? Je ne suis pas sûr de comprendre. Les Américains ont le droit
Juste pour clarité.
OK, mais pour clarifier quoi exactement? C'est ça, je comprends pas.
Pour l'accès à le pays, pour l'accès à les services de santé.
Mais les Américains ont
Is
pas
it,
déjà
I
cet
guess the
accès-là.
point is, like, is it actually an issue, or are you guys making it an issue to make it look like you're doing something on this?
No, I think it's just being absolutely prudent and being forward leaning and thinking to make sure that there's guidance on this particular issue.
Est-ce qu'il y a des indications, par exemple, dans les dernières années, qu'il y a eu des problèmes à la frontière pour des femmes américaines qui voulaient venir avoir un avortement au Canada? Est-ce que vous faites ça en raison qu'il y a eu des problèmes?
Non, mais peut-être si la décision est publiée, comme le draft a été annoncé hier, c'est un changement de la landscape, donc c'est juste une étape de prudence. Merci beaucoup.
Concernant l'ambassade, vous avez parlé la semaine dernière, question de jour peut-être?
Oui, bien, on fait deux choses. J'ai rencontré l'ambassadrice, notre ambassadrice canadienne, Larissa Galadza, la semaine passée. On est en train de travailler sur les plans. Ce que je peux vous confirmer aujourd'hui, c'est qu'en effet, Larissa Galadza va continuer d'être notre ambassadrice et notre objectif, certainement, c'est de la réinstaller à Kiev.
Quelle rapidité? Avec quelle rapidité vous espérez?
Dans les prochains jours.
Les prochains jours, je veux dire d'ici la fin de la semaine?
Je suis une personne très impatiente dans la vie, de façon générale. Et donc,
C'est confirmé que ce sera à Kiev, ce ne sera pas dans une autre ville.
Notre objectif, encore et toujours, c'est de ramener une présence diplomatique à Kiev. On le sait que certains de nos alliés l'ont fait. On parle aussi, bien entendu, avec d'autres pays, certainement avec nos partenaires des Five Eyes, avec la Grande-Bretagne, avec également les Américains. J'ai parlé de cette question-là avec Tony Blinken la semaine passée. Je suis en contact présentement avec Liz Truss, mon homologue.
Ça n'a pas encore été fait. Vous l'avez dit vous-même, il y a d'autres pays qui sont de retour.
Ils ne sont pas tous de retour. Donc, bien entendu, on se partage de l'information. On veut le faire de façon très sécuritaire. On est encore très inquiet. Pourquoi? Parce qu'il y a eu des frappes hier à Lviv et il y en a eu encore sur Kiev. Et bien entendu, les frappes se poursuivent dans l'est de l'Ukraine. Alors, bien entendu, toute forme de décision du gouvernement du Canada va être basée aussi sur la sécurité. Yes, David. Just. Okay, so I'll take English now. Yeah.
Will a senior Canadian official visit Kyiv anytime soon, and do you have a firm date for reopening the embassy?
Well, definitely our goal is to make sure that we return a diplomatic presence indeed in Ukraine. I can already confirm you that Larissa Galadza, who was our ambassador to Ukraine and stationed in the south of Poland, will be going back. That's clearly our objective. Now I'm looking in terms of days to make sure that we can make that
What about a
announcement.
visit? What about a visit? Like we've seen other world leaders go there, or senior officials from governments like in the U.S. What about a senior Canadian official?
Well, we want to make sure that the security assessment is done, and also we know that as of today, there were airstrikes in Lviv, also in Kyiv, near Kyiv, and military operations on both sides are continuing in the eastern part of Ukraine and southern part of Ukraine. So we know that the security situation is evolving, and we need to assess it and make sure that we take good decisions.
Where is the government at right now?
I'll just finish in English, and I'll come back to French.
Where is
Wait.
the government at right now in terms of a charter flight coming out of Ukraine to Canada? For
Sorry.
refugees or people who are trying to come to Canada, is that something that you're thinking about doing, and how close to being in a position to be able to airlift people out of Ukraine to Canada?
So I just want to make sure, because there's no charter flights coming out of Ukraine, because we know that airports have been targeted and are impacted. Charter flights usually come more from eastern part of Europe, which would be Poland or Romania. And in that context, I've been in contact with my German counterpart, my Polish counterpart. I know that Sean Fraser is also really looking into this issue, and obviously this is of the utmost importance. Okay, juste en français, deux dernières, because I don't want to create any form of frustration on the English journalists.
C'est quoi les défis,
Oui.
justement, de remplir notre ambassade à Kiev, notre ambassadrice à Kiev?
C'est toujours des enjeux de sécurité. C'est ça le défi. On se rappellera que l'Ukraine est en guerre. Donc, c'est ça le défi, et on doit s'assurer de protéger nos personnels. Et en même temps, il y a du travail diplomatique important. Parce que oui, on doit s'assurer de trouver une solution diplomatique au conflit. Et le Canada est un des meilleurs amis de l'Ukraine, et nous sommes en mesure d'offrir de l'aide stratégique et technique aux Ukrainiens.
Le prochain sommet du G20, les discussions pour expulser la Russie, comment ça se passe, comment ça progresse, parce qu'on sait que l'Indonésie n'est pas forcément chaude à l'idée.
J'ai eu plusieurs conversations avec mon homologue indonésienne. J'étais en Indonésie il y a environ 2 semaines. C'est sûr que l'Indonésie est dans une situation très particulière présentement, parce que certainement, ce n'était pas dans ses plans d'être pris un peu entre l'arbre et l'écosse. Mais notre objectif, c'est de faire en sorte de continuer à mettre de la pression sur la Russie dans tous les forums diplomatiques. Et je l'ai dit et je le redis, je ne m'assoirai pas à côté de Sergei Lavrov, et certainement pas à la même table. Merci.
Will you be supporting the move to lower the voting age to 16?
I think we're going to have a robust debate that I look forward to watching unfold on that.
But you suggested that yourself, didn't you, in legislation several years ago?
Yeah, again, I'm not going to prejudice the outcome of that. I think there's going to be a robust debate that I look forward to.
But what about your own personal view?
I look forward to a robust debate and hearing a number of different perspectives.
So why is it so secret?
What's that?
Why is it so secret? It's something that you've previously supported. You're saying you won't say now whether you still do?
I think that there's going to be, in the fall, there's going to be an opportunity to have a vote on that, and there's going to be a lot of discussion, and I'm going to be looking forward to that discussion.
Justement, sur le vote à 16 ans, là, ça, c'est quelque chose avec lequel vous avez déjà été en faveur. Le NPD dit que ce serait le temps. Est-ce que c'est le bon moment de faire ça?
Il va y avoir une bonne discussion sur ça, un bon débat, et après le débat, il va y avoir un vote.
C'est quoi les avantages?
L'avantage, c'est le débat. Et,
Non,
je
mais
pense
l'avantage de laisser les jeunes de 16 ans voter, ça serait quoi?
Oui, mais c'est pas pour moi de participer dans le débat maintenant. Il y a une discussion avec le caucus et j'attends pour ça. Et j'imagine qu'il va y avoir une bonne discussion.
Vous en pensez quoi personnellement?
Personnellement, j'ai pas maintenant, j'attends pour les débats et je veux entendre l'autre perspective. Et après ça, certainement, je vais dire les choses.
Il y a des pour, il y a des contre. Ça, c'est quoi les pour et les contre?
Oui, ça c'est le débat. Et,
vous avez sûrement une position. Là,
oui, non. Pas encore.
But will it be any of its legislative plans to guarantee access to abortion in Canada? Are we going to see that come to the parliamentary agenda now, as opposed to?
I think that we all are taking a step back and looking at how we enshrine protection for women in their own bodies and to make choices about about their bodies and about their futures. You know, the events that have unfolded recently have underscored that. So we're engaging internally on how we can make sure that those rights are enshrined, not just in the immediate term, but over the long term, so that we don't see an infringement of that.
Is that something you'd like to see on the legislative calendar this session, though? Like to deal with immediately, or is it?
Well, I think that, you know, we want to make sure that we do everything that we can to make sure that women in this country know that their right to choose and their autonomy over their own bodies is protected. But taking a look at that and making sure that we do it right and not just in a reactionary way is extremely important. So I can't give a timing on when we might exactly do that, but I think it's absolutely a priority for this government.
Does that go beyond the Canada Health Act? Would it be a standalone law, or would it be within the Canada Health Act?
Well, I wouldn't. I think it's too early to hypothesize about what actions may or may not be taken. I think what I can say definitively is that you know, in Canada, this government, and I think the vast majority of Canadians, want to see a woman's autonomy over her own body and her choice for her future and her life to be protected, and that we do not want to see any infringement on that. But I think we need to take a step back and make sure that we do it right, and that it's not reactionary in terms of what we're going to do. So I don't have an immediate comment on what form that may or may not take, other than to say that this government is prepared to do everything to ensure those rights are protected.
Sur la question de contraception, les conservateurs disent, les libéraux parlent beaucoup, mais n'ont jamais rien fait pour améliorer l'accès à l'avortement.
Oui, mais c'est clair. C'est clair que l'enjeu d'avortement, c'est pas à Montréal. C'est l'enjeu, ça continue. Et c'est évident, pas juste aux États-Unis, mais dans les autres pays aussi. On doit protéger.
Mais vous avez rien fait.
Oui, non, ce n'est pas le cas. C'est certainement, c'est une priorité primaire pour notre gouvernement de protéger le droit des femmes, mais tout le type de droits qui sont dans la charte. Et c'est pour nous de continuer de protéger le droit. Et c'est évident qu'il y a une menace de notre droit, le droit pour les femmes et pour des autres types de droits. Et c'est essentiel pour nous de continuer, de s'assurer que les droits sont protégés. OK, thanks so much.
Thank you.
C'est un enjeu que nous avons beaucoup de conversations. Je ne sais pas comment est-ce qu'on dit en français, mais de crainte, two minds de cette. Bien sûr, il y a beaucoup des enjeux que nous devons faire face maintenant, qui sont très importants pour les jeunes, comme le changement climatique, et bien sûr. Mais il y a beaucoup de choses pour lesquelles l'âge de 18 ans, c'est l'âge qu'on utilise pour presque toutes les choses. Et je dois penser plus, mais je crois qu'il y a les bons arguments dans les deux côtés.
Pensez-vous que le caucus libéral va appuyer une motion de son partenaire néo-démocrate là-dessus, un projet de loi?
Je crois qu'il y a un débat qui existe maintenant et on verra.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.